With everyone trying to make a grab at Ben Simmons, the Knicks have reportedly made no calls about Simmons and a trade with the 76ers. But don't worry, we're here to give you all the deets for this NBA trade season. The Hawks, Cavaliers, and a slew of other teams have been linked to Ben Simmons ahead of the February 10th trade deadline, with the Hawks, Cavs, and a few other teams allegedly interested. The Knicks, on the other hand, are a different story. According to league sources, the Knicks have looked into internal options for acquiring Ben Simmons, but they have never phoned Sixers management to discuss a potential deal. Without bringing in a third team, it's difficult to see how the Knicks could meet Philadelphia's exorbitant asking price for a top-tier player. New York is seeking a franchise cornerstone player, preferably someone who can complement Julius Randle, and it's unclear if Simmons is that guy or how well he complements Randle, particularly this year's Randle, who can't shoot from three. Simmons is an excellent player and defender, but is he a viable number one option? Is he really worth the money? To his credit, Knicks president Leon Rose has been patient in his development of the team. There will be no rush trades for older superstars who can help the club win a few games, but who are not truly tentpole guys. That shouldn't change, and it doesn't allow the season's clearly poor first half to cause fear. A Simmons deal, assuming the Knicks get him at a bargain, such a bargain's unlikely, considering what Daryl Morey's asking for the 76ers in return. It appears to be more panic than long-term planning. It would be prudent for New York to stay out of the Simmons saga. According to Fisher, the Knicks are expected to tinker around the margins of the roster before the deadline, but not make major changes. Patience is proving to be the most effective strategy, and it will almost certainly be rewarded. Next, the rumors. The Knicks and Simmons have been connected in trade rumors since Shams Charania of The Athletic named New York as a potential bidder in mid-December. Even before that, the Aussie was frequently mentioned in Knicks land by armchair GMs and trade machine fans. However, according to Fisher's understanding, none of this thinking about Simmons has resulted in Rose and company really attempting to make things happen. Sixers might exceed deadline. For the next month, the 76ers will debate multiple Simmons trade scenarios, but dealing him before the NBA's annual trade deadline is not one of them. According to one person familiar with Philadelphia's thought process, persuading Simmons to return to the team and play as much of the remaining schedule as possible is the team's objective number one when it comes to the headstrong playmaker. There are still more than 4 weeks left in this trade season for the Sixers to change their minds, but the sense they're giving off, no matter how loudly outsiders object, is that they believe waiting will help them get a Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal for Simmons. NBA Central reports that one league insider also advised keeping a watch on Atlanta as a potential contender for Philadelphia Simmons. Despite this, insiders claim the Sixers, who have been looking for an all-star in exchange for Simmons for a long time, have continued to demand a large haul, disappointing some suitors in the process. As a result, several team officials believe the Sixers head of basketball operations, Daryl Morey, is still waiting for Damian Lillard of Portland or Bradley Beal of Washington to become available, i.e. this summer at the earliest. Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, might be a club to keep an eye on in the Simmons sweepstakes. COVID concerns in the league have chilled a lot of trade chatter across the league, but as players return and clubs reassemble their lineups, he believes you'll see teams re-engage with the Sixers, particularly Ben Simmons in Philadelphia. He hasn't committed to returning to the Sixers this season, and they haven't made any progress on a trade. The deadline for trades is February 10th, and teams that have previously dealt with Philadelphia include Indiana, Sacramento, and Minnesota. However, it will be interesting to watch the Cleveland Cavaliers, who had been involved with Philly on Simmons before going on this incredible start to the season. They have some fascinating assets, either in a direct trade with Philadelphia or in a 3 or 4 team deal, and JB Bickerstaff recently signed a new contract that will keep him in Cleveland through 2026-27, but this is a Cleveland club that is only a game out of third place. Sixers stubborn. According to Mark Stein of ESPN, the Sixers have been clear that they would not trade Ben Simmons unless their demands for a return package are satisfied. And they've managed to convince a lot of people across the league that they'll stick to their guns, even if it means missing the trade deadline, even if it means they won't be able to deal Simmons until the summer. Several reports of a Ben Simmons deal, including the Morey quadrangular, have circulated throughout the league in recent weeks. Philadelphia, Minnesota, the Kings, and the Rockets are the teams in question, which has led to a lot of debate. Certain officials have stated that if Ben Simmons is in fact traded, one or more of the quadrangulars will be included. In other news, Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson's returned to the NBA after a long layoff due to injury. He last played in the NBA nearly 2 years ago. It was as if he hadn't left at all. The 31-year-old tore his left ACL in the 2019 NBA Finals, then tore his right Achilles in late 2020 while recovering. Thompson, who started for the Warriors, hit his first three-pointer and scored 7 points in 7 minutes against the Cavaliers, including a spectacular slam that had spectators on the edge of their seats. Thompson had 17 points, 3 rebounds, and a single assist in his team's triumph over the Cavaliers in only 20 minutes. Only 40 seconds into the game, the second Splash Brothers scored on his first touch as well, draining a floater. NBA fans erupted in support of the Warrior star, coining the term Klay Day. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. In the NBA, fortunes may shift in an instant. It wasn't long ago that the Boston Celtics appear to be on the verge of a bright future with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, two young rising superstar wings. The goal was to place a large piece next to the duo and battle for titles for the following 10 years. Brown, for his part, dismisses the notion that he and Tatum can't get along. The Celtics had numerous options for the final piece of their championship jigsaw, thanks to a treasure of future draft assets. Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, and Kemba Walker were all attempted. Hayward and Walker were never the players they were meant to be in Boston, primarily owing to a tragic twist of destiny, while Irving very much checked out before fleeing for Brooklyn. Danny Ainge, the Celtics czar, has resigned. Brad Stevens has relocated to the second floor. Ime Udoka, the new head coach, has tried the public call-out technique several times, but it hasn't worked. The Celtics are 19-21, good enough or terrible enough for the number 10th place in the Eastern Conference, exactly on the cut line for the postseason play-in round, after a win against the Knicks on Saturday, in which Brown recorded his first triple-double of the season. Kia MVP ladder. It's always wonderful to start the weekend with a Kia MVP ladder game, and Giannis Antetokounmpo and Kevin Durant's matchup on Friday is colored with thrilling recent history. Milwaukee hasn't played at Barclays Center since defeating the Brooklyn Nets in a Game 7 overtime thriller to close off the Eastern Conference semifinals 203 days ago. Durant sent the game into overtime with a 23-foot turnaround jumper, the tips of his KD 14 sneakers just brushing the three-point line, and a back-and-forth slugfest that included 20 lead changes and 10 ties. If you go back an inch, the Nets may be the defending NBA champions. While Durant set an NBA record with 48 points in that game, playing all 53 minutes of regulation and overtime, Antetokounmpo had 40 points and 13 rebounds before Chris Middleton hit the game-winning dagger with 40.7 seconds left on the clock in the first Game 7 to go to overtime in 15 years. When the teams face again on national television on Friday, no one's anticipating a repetition of this Eastern Semis Classic, but you can rely on a heated matchup involving the top two players on this week's edition of the Kia Race to the MVP ladder. The Bucks triumphed by 23 points in their season opener in Milwaukee, with Durant and Antetokounmpo both scoring 32 points. Wizards commentator apologizes. In Wednesday's game between the Rockets and the Wizards, an NBA broadcaster says he mistook the wrong guy for Kevin Porter Jr.'s father. You've got to give credit. Kevin Porter Jr., like his dad, pulled that trigger right at the right time, the Wizards' Glenn Consor commented, after Porter Jr. scored a game-winning three-pointer at the final second to give the Rockets a 114-111 victory. According to a case docket with the King County Superior Court and USA Today, Porter Jr.'s father, Brian Kevin Porter Sr., pled guilty in 1993 for the murder of a 14-year-old girl. In 2004, Porter Sr. was allegedly shot and died in Seattle. The commentator apologized for his triggering comment. And that's a wrap for this video. We'll see you in the next one.